Do you like homeschooling?
Life was already hard for Lynn, but the pandemic means she's now having to make decisions no parent ever wants to make.
I quite a lot have to go without food so that my daughter has to eat. I feel like I'm having to go to food banks, and also I've had to apply for a crisis grant. I lose sleep thinking about it, stress about it.
And Lynn isn't alone. Charity the Joseph Rowntree Foundation researches social issues. It says families on the lowest incomes who were already struggling before the pandemic are suffering the most. Charlene works and lives in one of the most deprived areas of Aberdeen. She's been furloughed since last year.
You have to just, at the moment, most people are just looking at buying their food and gas, and if they can't afford that, then it's food banks. To begin with, it would be people that were on universal credits, but now it's people that have been furloughed, people that have worked all their lives. My daughter had obviously been watching the TV and knows bits and bobs, and she said, "Mum, if you're ever struggling for money, I've always got my ESA." It shouldn't come to children having to say to their parents, if you're struggling, I've got money, because that's for their studying. And a lot of people are in that situation. It's sad when you see it day in, day out in the local community that we live in.
The Rowntree report found 4 in 10 workers on the minimum wage faced a high or very high risk of losing their job. For those already living in poverty, a second lockdown has forced some to make drastic choices.
Families are having to use their disability living allowance that they're getting for their children to pay for heating and to pay for food. That is there to support people getting care and getting respite. And people are having to make these trade-offs between, do I heat my house, do I feed my kids, to make sure my kid's getting the care that he or she needs.
Charities like this one say the situation is dire.
People who were donators to us are now coming for help. And so just this whole spectrum of which you've got people who normally need help, and then on top of that you've got a whole raft of people who are just in circumstances they've never experienced.
There's a huge demand for their service, one they're struggling to meet.
You know, we've got a big building here, it's full of furniture, it's full of clothes. We can't deliver that to people, and we're getting phone calls from support workers all the time saying this person needs help, and in these areas we can't respond.
The Scottish Government and the UK Government both say they've offered extra support for employment and for those on low incomes. But for people like Lynn and her daughter, it's nowhere near enough. Louise Hosey, STV News.